Man, I really want a new game on Nintendo Switch. I don't have any money. I only have 19 cents. Bell, what should I do? And in that moment, an entire new world was opened up. The 19-cent games. And below, enter the games of the cheap. They look like ordinary games. They even sound like ordinary games, but something is wrong. They are cheap. Very cheap. They are mere pennies to buy. The eShop is constantly circulating with these games, all under the 50-cent marker. One might ask themselves, why would a developer even charge at all if the game is only 9 cents? Well, that I do not know. And nevertheless, here they are. Granted, the games usually cost about $5 each, but they are always discounted so heavily down to mere cents that the cost might as well always be the discounted rate. These games are the clearance aisle at the grocery store, the broken, used, discarded, or returned items that no one would pay full price for, but when cheap enough, they snag and reel in even the most discerning customer. So the question arises, are any of these games actually good? When examining them, you could easily purchase all of them and try to figure it out because they're so cheap, but holy cow, what a waste of time. Therefore I, a self-professed time waster, will go through all the trouble for you. We will take all the games, put them in a bracket, and fight it out until only one game will emerge at the top. Welcome to the first part of my new series, Champion of the Cheap. So the first step is to create the bracket. Simple enough. I began my search online and came to a site called Brackify. To create this bracket, only discovered that if I wanted a nice bracket, it was going to cost me $1,500. Now for a normal contest, I would say here, take my money. But this price does not align with the morals of Champion of the Cheap. So we will have to go a vastly different route. Enter the world of bootleg bracketing. There is a major problem though. My bootleg bracket only has 16 slots, and there are 18 games currently less than 50 cents on the eShop. So I'm going to have to eliminate 2 that I never felt stood a chance anyway. I'm doing them a huge favor and saving them the embarrassment. The Mahjong Huntress and something called IHUGU. I don't know. Next step, fill all the games in the bracket in a random order. Each episode, one set will battle it out to see who advances. Eventually, it will come down to the 2 best cheap games, but from there, only one game can emerge as Champion of the Cheap. And done! And like with any good bracket, when done, it must be displayed for all to see. Perfect. So first bracket to battle it out is a game called Membrane and another one called Dungeons and Aliens. Now, admittedly, I'd never heard of either of these games, but let's see if there's a reason why. First, let's take a closer look at Membrane. Now, before we delve too far into this game, let's take a moment to look at how the game brags on itself in the eShop. 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Don't undersell it, guys. You don't want people to expect too little when they just lay down a whopping 9 cents. Innovative, polished, needs to be celebrated. Beavis and Butthead meets Super Mario. I'm not sure you can have the word polish next to Beavis and Butthead. And then his honorable mention award, not from IGN, but from something called IGF. Now, I had never heard of IGF, so off we go to Google and then on to Wikipedia, where life's greatest questions are answered. And I see something. IGF, insulin-like growth factor. Huh, so you're telling me this is telling me it's an honorable mention. Anyway, back to Membrane. I like the title screen, and I like the graphics, but it doesn't take but a mere 10 seconds before I'm transported into this pretty disgusting animation scene. And now I know why they compared it to Beavis and Butthead. The story has something to do with this fly here, making him go into this psychedelic state, and then you get to go into this guy's body and try to collect all these glowy items. I'll admit, I did hate this game until I got to the part where you could actually play it. Because once you start playing it, it is a very clever puzzle game. Every level is a single stage where you must collect the glow items to open the door to advance. You can shoot red blocks out to create ladders and bridges to reach the items, or fire a weapon to knock bridges out and move items. Some levels are quick puzzles where the goal is obvious, but others you had to truly sit there for a while and think about in order to complete. There is no one way to beat each puzzle either, so every player will probably end up beating the level differently, which does add a lot to the replayability of the game as well. Each level you complete advances you through that part of the body. You move through all the parts of the body, clearing the levels to finally win the game. The puzzles grow more and more complex as the game progresses, and overall is a very unique puzzle game experience. The graphics during the game are perfectly retro, the soundtrack is enjoyable, and the frustration is real but rewarding when it comes to gameplay. And really, the only thing to hate here are the cutscenes, which is pretty easy to avoid. I still think some of those reviews are padded, but I don't think anybody regrets spending 9 cents on the game. Which brings us to our next game. If you've ever felt like, I wish there were more wizards in this, or I wish there were more aliens in this, and you felt like this was your only option, well, the world just got better for you. And enter the world of Dungeons and Aliens. It's like the company was looking for a way to cash in on what is most popular at the moment. No one would ever have a creative vision to combine the two for a great story. The whole concept feels like a giant cash grab. They do attempt a little bit of a story here with Master Nolan. I suppose that's how you say it, Nolan. Maybe has some Cajun qualities to him as well. Anyway, the gameplay is pretty straightforward to a normal tower defense game such as Plants vs. Zombies. You have an overworld map and then you set up obstacles and attack the approaching monsters, or in this case, aliens. You do learn some special moves, attack bosses, and have a few hidden surprises here and there, but this is basically just tower defense. Granted, the tower defense is very well done and is a very polished game, and after you finish each level you do get some reward points and coins, and you can cash these coins in for some upgrades or cool special weapons. And as the game advances, you do get some new allies and you learn more and more abilities, and naturally the hordes of enemies get larger and stronger as you progress. Admittedly, I do love tower defense games, and this one is well done, so I do like it. The characters, despite being contrived, are pretty fun. Enemies, they're evil enough. Weapon upgrades are enjoyable, and the game is actually what I would consider overall a fine game. Yes, it is designed with an idea to make as much money as possible, and isn't the most creative, but it is a tower defense game, and it's well done, so I'd say it's worth the price tag. So I was actually really surprised by the outcome of this. I expected both games to be completely trash, completely terrible. However, both games turned out to be pretty enjoyable games as a whole. But the whole point of this contest is for one game to advance. And in this case, that game gets to be Membrane. I'll admit, I did hate the cutscene animation, but the game itself is extremely creative, and I've never played a game like it. The replayability is immense, with different ways to solve the puzzles and add in collectibles. Dungeons and Aliens is fun, but it's just nothing new to it. Tower defense games were perfected years ago, and it's nothing for a company to add in some polished sprites to create a quality game. And that's what this is. It is a quality game, but its lack of charm, it just knocks it out of the running for this contest. So for this episode, Membrane advances on its way to potentially becoming champion of the cheap.